visiting with you about some of what's going on here. We have on the in the studio with us, in the building with us here at the show, some officers from the Nebraska Bankers Association. That's kind of become a tradition as we've moved through the aspect of what's going on here at the show. And we're going to begin with the chairman, Craig Brewster. He's from Butte State Bank. And Craig, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, I'm from Butte. Butte's a small community located in Boyd County in north central Nebraska, predominantly dryland, row crop production, and cow-calf operations.
As far as the kind of a season it's been and the kind of a year that we're in, as far as your customers are concerned?
They're looking pretty good. We had some issues the end of July, where it was really hot and dry, but fortunately in August it started to rain and probably saved the dryland farm crop. The cow-calf guys have plenty of feed, plenty of pasture, and they look to have another good year with where the current livestock prices are.
We also have the chairman-elect of the Nebraska Bankers, Mike Pate. He's from the United Republic Bank of Omaha. And Mike, give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Sure, thank you. Veteran banker, been in the banking industry for nearly 40 years. That kind of gives my age away a little bit, but very good industry to be in, obviously. My bank is a community bank in Omaha, suburban Omaha. I had an opportunity to organize and start the bank myself back in 2006, 2 years prior to the worst recession in 40, 50 years or so. But people always say, boy, you picked a bad time to start a bank. Well, in the contrary, it actually was a pretty good time to start a bank. It just disrupted our growth plans a little bit, but it actually turned out to be pretty good.
All right, we've got kind of the rural versus urban, and I don't know, is there much difference between, is banking in Nebraska, or is there quite a bit of difference between the way we do things in rural versus more of an urban setting? I don't know who we should ask that first. How about you, Craig?
I guess to some degree, banking is banking. It's all about taking deposits and reinvesting those deposits in loans in the communities that those banks serve. So it's just agriculture is a business, and the predominant line of business that we deal with is people that are in direct ag production or those that support ag production. It's basically the same thing, in my opinion.
Now, we also want to meet the new president and CEO of the organization, Richard Beyer. And Richard, give us some of your background.
Oh, great. Good afternoon. I've spent the last 9 years kind of traveling and doing economic development across the state for Governor Heineman and Governor Johans, and had an opportunity to move over to provide leadership for the bankers and help them evolve into the next generation of banking in Nebraska.
Now, as far as kind of your goals, kind of as a group, do you set those, and how often do those change? I don't know. Who wants to answer that? Richard, go ahead.
Well, we do have an existing strategic plan that we work off of, and we continue to evaluate that. And obviously, part of what we do is sort of dependent on what the economy looks like and the issues that we deal with.
Okay, issues, and we haven't really talked about that. I know you guys always are dealing with things in the industry. So what is hot right now for issues for banking?
Probably the biggest issue that a lot of banks are still dealing with and trying to get their hands around would be the Dodd-Frank legislation that was passed after the financial crisis and the impact it's had, especially on the lending of funds for 1 to 4 family properties across Nebraska. And unfortunately, I'm of the opinion that law has caused a lot of damage to rural areas across the country in the respects that a lot of banks no longer are willing to take the risk to do the paperwork and make 1 to 4 family loans in rural communities.
You know, I guess when you talk about regulation, banking certainly has its share of things it deals with, but it kind of tends to be a universal subject that every business is dealing with in some form or another, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Mike, in the respects that, banking industry is one of the heaviest regulated industries in the country, has been and always will be. What we're seeing now is the government maybe overreach itself a little bit and get into things maybe that they shouldn't be in. I know EPA has been a thorn in the side of ag producers recently with some of the rules that they're trying to propose. And it's easy for somebody to sit in Washington, D.C. and propose a rule. It's a whole other thing when you have to implement it out on the farm or the ranch.
Well, we want to thank you guys for being with us. As always, it's a pleasure, and we have been visiting with some of the officers of the Nebraska Bankers Association. It's kind of become a tradition here on day one of Husker Harvest Days in our midday show. We have had with us today Craig Brewster of Butte State Bank. He's the chairman of the group, the chairman-elect Mike Pate from United Republic Bank in Omaha, and also the new president and CEO of the organization, Richard Beyer. We'll have more programming coming throughout Husker Harvest Days from the show, but for right now, we'll turn it back to the studio from the Rural Radio Network. I'm Mike LePorte.